And actually, in the long run, it may save us quite a bit of money in actual curricular materials as we move on down the line with that, as we move through looking at science curriculum and development. It will actually save us, I think, a lot of dollars in the actual development of curriculum, because that takes a lot of resources as far as man hours and time. And then also the purchase of materials as well to support the curriculum that we may develop. So they've already put a lot of time and effort into this. And again, I've done work with EDC in the past, actually here and then in one of my former positions, and they really do quality work and top-notch research, and have been involved in a lot of National Science Foundation grants. And also with Frank LaBanca from Ed Connection in Litchfield. I know I'm serving on the statewide committee looking at the future of science assessments with him. And again, he's done a lot of work with this over the years.
Ms. Goldrich.
Chris, where you say students release their science, CMT, and CAT scores and release demographic data, are students allowed to opt out if they choose not to provide this kind of information? Or if the parents decide they don't want to?
Well, again, it's still anonymous. It's still anonymous. We're not really providing student names, but they would know. And again, let's say with grants in the past, just it would be whatever the student's scores would be, and then it might be their, their demographic data or whatever, but there's no names attached to it.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Ms. Fisher.
I'd like to move that the Vernon Board of Education approve Vernon's participation with researchers at the Education Development Center to partner in a science education project, Educational Reform in Science for High School Students, an efficacy study of the 21st Century Science Academy.
I have a motion. Do I have a second on the motion? Mr. Percy.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'm going to call the motion to a vote by a show of hands. All in favor? And those opposed? I show one opposed, and the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6.1B, UCONN graduate student.
Yes, Dr. Driscoll is a school psychologist at Rockville High School, leads a double life. He also teaches. And he's here to ask us to allow his students to do some learning with our students, which I think will help both of us. So, Dr. Driscoll, I'll turn this over to you to explain.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. I have 9 students in the academic assessment class at UCONN, and I'm asking that they be able to come to our RHS to meet up with several of our students to engage in progress monitoring, outcome measurement of achievement, also using normative type tests to look at achievement. It's very beneficial, I think, in terms of bringing some of this thinking to the high school level through use of AimsWeb. Because of my doing the class, I have access to AimsWeb and can share those materials with staff at RHS as well, so they can become aware of it. One of the benefits of AimsWeb is it does have normative data that pertain to high school level students, not just for comprehension, but for oral fluency as well. So I think it could be beneficial on any number of levels in terms of our exploring the benefits of perhaps using this type of system to the benefits that my students would derive from learning the process and learning the importance of the process. Are there any particular questions you may have?
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Ms. Sarn.
How many students are you hoping to recruit?
At least 9 students. The requirements for the class entail the students, my students at least, completing an assessment of 1 student.
And what kind of time will it take, and will it be academic time?
No, it won't be academic time, and an estimate would be about an hour and a half or so, and it would be during non-academic time, and I'll be speaking directly with the parents. These are students who I have a knowledge of, or a reading specialist has a knowledge of. So I'll be engaging them very thoroughly, the parents in the process.
Mr. Percy.
Good evening. If this is approved, would you come back to the board and give us a report on how it went?
Well, the nature of, I could.
I know there's a privacy issue there.
Yeah, there's privacy issues too, and because they're students and they're initiating the task, they're really learning. So the validity of what they produce is questionable.
Okay.
It's greatly questionable. But at least I can certainly speak to the process of how the benefits of the process that we might derive in terms of the methodologies that are involved.
That's what I want to.
Yeah, and expanding, looking at things beyond just looking at comprehension, looking at oral fluency as well on a more regular basis. That might be valuable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Bush.
I see you're going to be doing progress monitoring, and I know what we would like to know is if, because of the work your students are doing, is there any improvement in what they're doing? Are they going to be working with the students as well?
At the high school level, that's a little bit more problematic. Really, the exercise, what I'm trying to do is create as much of a real experience for the students as I can, but there's going to be some limitations. I did think about affording them the opportunity for intervention, but I really will be more working with the reading specialist to see what the impact of the interventions that he's using. But certainly, yes, the notion of this type of methodology would be that everybody, including parents, any number of people, would be in a position to try various interventions that could be helpful. But because of the newness of the students to the process as well, the validity of things is very questionable. So I'm really interested in them getting a run-through of the process and understanding what it entails, being able to build some rapport with real students in real situations. And so there's some feedback maybe offered, but it would, you really need adequate data, many data points to really know what you're looking at, and really be able to make an accurate explanation for what you're looking at. So this is really just a kind of a test procedure for the students to learn, but there are several students that are, I think, very willing to engage in this process.
Thank you. Other discussion? And Ms. Fisher.
I move that the Vernon Board of Education approve Dr. John Driscoll's request for 9 UCONN graduate students to partner with Rockville High School in an examination of curriculum-based assessment monitoring through the use of Ames Web.
I have a motion. Do I have a second on that motion? Ms. Bush.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'm going to call the motion to a vote by a show of hands. All in favor? And those opposed? I show 2 opposed, and the motion does carry. Thank you, Mr. Driscoll.
Yep.
Good luck with your project. Item 6.2, student teacher and interns. Dr. Vernon.
Mrs. Morasso has prepared her annual report on our student teachers and interns we have across the district at various levels. Sometimes we're assigned them, sometimes we're not, so it's not a definite. We have people who take student teachers, which is marvelous. We need more of them, so I'm hoping anyone who hears this will want to do that. And I'll turn this over to Mrs. Morasso.
Thank you, Dr. Conway. The placement of student teachers and interns from teacher preparatory institutions is governed by board policy and is a function of the superintendent's office. I'm pleased to report that over the last decade, we've established professional relationships with several local universities and colleges to place aspiring student teachers and interns in our school. These requests are processed through my office. Placement papers include a letter from the university, a copy of the student's resume, including letters of recommendation and evidence of a criminal history check. For the spring semester, we have accommodated placements for 19 student teachers and interns from higher ed. These institutions identified on our spreadsheet include Central Connecticut State University, the University of Connecticut, Sacred Heart University, and Manchester Community College. There certainly is mutual benefit to these partnerships. While we are providing the environment where aspiring teachers and interns can learn and practice their skills, our staff is also engaged in the continuous discussion of effective instructional practice. It's also a wonderful opportunity for us to observe firsthand the skills and knowledge of these young professionals, and in fact, we have actually hired several of them over the past several years. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Morris? Seeing none, thank you for your reports. Moving on to